Hi, Amy. I'm Whitney. It's nice to finally meet you in person.
You too.
What brought you in today?
Um, well, I'm really stressed a lot, and I feel like my stress is from work and my stress is from home, and I'm just spread really thin, and I can't say no to anybody, and so I'm not doing well on the things that I should be doing well on. And I'm just struggling with finding balance, I guess, or knowing if I'm doing everything right, or I'm overwhelmed.
Okay, so before we get too far into that, I want to let you know that what we discussed today and how you're feeling and what's going on in your world is going to be something that's confidential in the room. If at any point I feel like you're going to harm yourself or others are at risk for harm from you, or just in general, those are times that I'm going to have to break confidentiality, and we can kind of discuss those things as they come up. But outside of that, we'll keep things just between us. So tell me more. You said work is stressing you out. What does that look like for you? What do you do?
Um, well, at work, I'm in charge of organizing and scheduling, and um, I have feel like there's a lot of expectations on me, and I can't keep up with them all, I guess.
What do those expectations look like?
Um, well, I have 350 kids on my side of the caseload. I haven't even met all of them. I'm supposed to be helping guide them and help them get ready for college and life. And I don't even know all their names. And I feel like I get stuck with crisis all the time. And I don't know how to get out of just being in crisis mode all the time and be more proactive and help those other kids.
Okay, well, that's fair. That's a big caseload. What are your expectations of yourself and your job? Are those similar to what your boss's expectations are, or does that look differently for you?
I think I put more stress on myself and expectations on myself than anyone. Um, I mean, anytime I've gotten an evaluation or anything, like he always says that I'm doing well and doing what I'm supposed to, and he's pleased, but I feel like I could do it better.
Okay, and you had also mentioned it's not just work, it's
Yeah.
home also.
Um, so it's gonna sound silly because I only have like one kid and stuff. I know that people have a lot more, but it just feels like I'm constantly running and doing and going and can't say no when people ask me to help with things. And I coach basketball, and it's just constant. And my husband and I go through stages where um, I don't know, I feel like we don't communicate well, and then there's hard feelings, and then I'm stressed from that, and I go to work and there's stress there, and I just can never get my head above water.
Okay, so you keep saying my. Do you think all of this really should land on you, and or do you feel like there should be other people in your world that help with those things?
I think there's certain times where people could be helping out, but I'm also a perfectionist, and I feel like when I delegate things, it doesn't get done how I want it to or how it should be done, and then I go back and do it anyway. So a lot of times I just take it on and not ask for help. So,
So I'm curious, is that your way of avoiding stress? If you do it and know that it's done and don't have to question what's happening, does that reduce your anxiety a little bit?
um, I think the unknown stresses me out more. So, me not knowing how they're doing the project or handling it, or if it's going to get done, or if it's going to be done by the deadline, like it's less stressful in my mind if I just do it myself, because then I know it's done right. I meet the deadlines, it's good to go.
Okay, so with me being a person centered therapist, some of our goal is to focus more so on you and, by the sounds of it, what we can do to help reduce your stress, how you look at your stress, and maybe set some goals for work and home as to what we can do to reduce that for
Mm-hmm.
you. So at the end of this, just so you know, we'll probably go through a mutually counseling agreement. You'll agree to do your part, I'll agree to do my part. However, the part that you are responsible for are going to be goals that you come up with, needs that are meant for you, come up with by you. I'm not going to tell you what you need to do and tell you how to get those things. We're going to kind of work through that together and then decide what those goals should look like
Okay.
as far as you see it. What's one little goal that we could set for your job to try to reduce your stress? what would help you daily?
That's a good question, because I feel like I have to let go of some of that controlling nature, and that's really hard for me.
Okay, that's fair.
So I guess one goal would be to find some small project this week that I could delegate to somebody.
Okay, and how are you going to avoid freaking out about delegating that?
I don't know that I will. But I think if I can do it once and watch it through till the end and see that it turns out okay, then the next time there will be less stress.
Is that something you think you can hold yourself responsible for?
I think I can do it if it's something, because I have things in my job that are probably less, I don't know, prioritized or important as some of the other things. So I could give one of those away pretty easily, I think, just to kind of make sure I can follow through.
Okay, and then is there anybody that you have a good relationship with at school that could maybe help encourage you or support you to work through some of these goals that you'd be willing to discuss it with?
Yeah, I have a couple of coworkers that I could talk to. That maybe I could touch base with them on Friday and just make sure that I've done what I needed to do.
Okay, I think that's fair. Do you think we should set up more than one goal for work, or is that do you think that's a good step for you right now, and then we can address further once you see this first project all the way through?
I think that I think one might be enough to start with, but if we only find like one other thing to set a goal for, maybe we come back and do another one for work.
Okay, we can do that. So we'll leave that second work goal open for right now and see how the first one goes.
Yeah.
What about at home?
I think my biggest problem at home is that my husband and I don't communicate very well. And then that causes hard feelings and miscommunications, which then leads to further cold shoulders and just keeps amping up. So I don't know. Home's kind of hard. It's more emotional. It's more intimate, or it's harder.
Yeah, you're lots of feelings involved at home. So before we make a goal, we can kind of address what do you think your role is in those miscommunications and the cold shoulders at home?
I am not a confrontational person, and I'm more passive aggressive. So sometimes when he doesn't communicate to me, instead of just asking him about it, I just let it be. And then I get all cranky and upset on the inside, but I don't like show it on the outside, and then it just builds and builds.
Do you think he picks up on that?
Oh, I'm sure he does, but he doesn't like confrontation either. So we'll be on day 3 of neither of us doing much more than pleasantries, and then finally it's like a blow up.
Okay. Would more reoccurring small fights lessen your stress than one big fight every once in a while?
It might. I've tried in the past to kind of say, hey, what's wrong and what's going on? Am I bothering you? Is there something I've done? And he doesn't tell me a lot. So, maybe I could just keep asking that question until he talks to me about it.
Okay, I think that's fair. Asking, being considerate of his feelings, and trying to work through that.
When does it become nagging?
That is a great question. And maybe that's a conversation that you have with him. Maybe that can be one of your goals, is to have that conversation. It's not an elephant in the room that you guys are struggling with communication. It sounds like you know that, he knows that. Maybe that's a conversation you have. At what point do I try to confront you and have those little conversations so that it's not a fight? And when do I just stop and let you work through it on your own? Because that's fair. Some people need that. And if you need to not feel that confrontation all the time so that you can be more productive elsewhere, I think those little conversations are okay.
Can I tell him my counselor said?
I don't see why not. I think at some point you're going to have to take ownership of that. But if he's on board with you coming to counseling and saying, okay, this is the goals that we made together, I want to work through this. Can you help me? Can we do this together so that I'm not adding something else to my pile that I feel is just on me?
So I should set it up ahead of time so that he knows what it's going to look like and he understands where it's coming from.
Do you feel that would be beneficial for you in a situation like that?
I think it'd be more beneficial for me, because then if I don't, I feel like he won't understand where it's coming from.
So if we were to have that conversation not based off of him or his opinion or his reaction, what is the best way for you to approach that goal?
I think the goal would be that whenever I can tell he's upset, that I need to ask him to sit down with me and talk about what's going on. And if he doesn't, then I've met my part of that goal. I've at least initiated it.
Yeah, is that something that you think you're going to be able to let go of if he doesn't reciprocate that effort that you're putting in?
I don't know.
So what would you think, how could we make a goal out of that response? If you were to have that normal, will you come sit and talk with me, and you do your part, like you said, and he doesn't reciprocate, we can't control that, right? No. But you've done, like you said, what you can do. So now we need to work on kind of letting that go and letting him process on his own and being open to coming back to that conversation and not having that cold shoulder of, I already tried. We already sat down once and you chose not to. Because I feel like that builds and builds in you. And that's kind of what leads to your cold shoulder, is the angst of not knowing what he's thinking because of the lack of communication.
So would it be two separate goals? Like one goal that if I sense that I ask him to sit down, and then if he won't, that I revisit it?
I think that's fair. Is that something that would help you?
Like 24 hours, or I don't know a good gauge on that.
So I don't know your husband, and right now we're kind of focused on your anxiety. How long is too long for you that's going to cause you to assert your passive aggressiveness that you had mentioned?
A lot of times when it happens at night, I kind of gauge him again in the morning. And if he's like more open and happy or upbeat, then I know that we're probably in a better place and I could ask him again. But in the morning, if he's still kind of quiet and withdrawn, then I might wait until that next evening. So I would say within 24 hours.
Okay, I think that's fair. Do you think your stress level can handle the 24-hour window?
Yeah, I think my stress really gets bad when it's longer than that.
Okay, well, that's fair. That's something that we can do to kind of help elevating those levels, right? So we addressed work and we addressed home. One other thing is, you had mentioned you were spread extremely thin and you had a hard time saying no. Mm-hmm. I want to try to set, if you're willing, one personal goal for you that helps you in being more mindful of your capabilities, whether it's attempting to say no once a week so that you can have some time with yourself, or just some time with your child that you had mentioned, just something that you can do for you, and maybe not all these other things that you can't control, the people at your work and those expectations, or your husband and his expectations, but you can kind of control your time and what you're going to do about that. What's one thing that you could do for your stress levels?
Well, I think, kind of like you said, if I can say no to something that would take away my time from my family, I need to do it like once a week. Because right now, we don't have a lot of time together because he coaches and I'm busy and then I coach. And so when we're both agreeing to help friends out or do things at work or whatever, then we don't have a lot of family time. So I think that would help with home also, if I could set that goal.
How often do you think that should happen for you to try to lower your stress levels?
To be realistic, once a week's probably going to be pushing it, but once a week would probably be a good place to start and see how it goes.
Okay, so it sounds like we've set these goals and you're willing to come back and revisit these after the first week and first attempt to see how these go. Mm-hmm. Okay, so with these goals that we've written out, do you feel that most of these were your idea and things that are going to help reduce your stress? Okay, so like I mentioned before, I'm going to have you sign this mutual counseling contract. And it's not a legal document or anything to stress that's going to come back and bite you if you can't say no once a week, or if you can't have these difficult conversations, but just something to try to keep both of us accountable. Are you wanting to make another appointment after you try these things, or should we just make it now so you kind of have a goal time frame?
I think I should probably set it now because if I don't know when we're meeting again, then I may not be as likely to do it.
Okay, so we can go ahead and step out and do that.
Okay.